that new way of drinking tea. Karen, you've set the airwaves alight with that suggestion today.
Okay, Louise, that's us. That's us all set and good to go.
Oh, excellent, excellent. Thanks so much, Paul. Well, thank you so much for inviting me up to deliver the session on evolving digital thinking, leading digital culture and the curriculum. So really the aim of this session is to support yourself as leaders of learning, leaders of your school communities, to really reflect on current and emerging digital practices, and also to begin to evolve your own digital thinking to be able to drive forward that digital excellence across the culture and across the curriculum of all our settings. Now, this is a virtual session today, but I also want it to be an interactive session as well, and that's really, really important. So I do hope you all have a cup of tea, but please make sure that you're able to see the chat facility, because I will be asking a couple of reflective questions throughout the session. But this is, you know, an opportunity for you really to be able to develop your knowledge and a vision of a whole school approach to the use of digital. And again, just reflecting on everything Paul has also said, what's happening across Aberdeenshire as well, and where you're at as a school community. What is also really essential during this time for your own professional learning and your own professional development and reflection is to particularly focus on sustainable change. And I'm going to keep mentioning that sustainable, manageable change and what that looks like for you. We cannot do everything at once, and actually trying to do everything is not going to be effective for all of our learners and for our school communities. So what we really want from this today is for you to focus on what can you do really, really well, and what can really make that change possible for you. What does that change look like, and what is sustainable for your setting? So that is really, really important that we focus on that today. So here's just a wee quick outline of the session. So I am going to have another reconnector that's got nothing to do with biscuits. I'm going to provide a digital learning and teaching overview. Now, again, as we've said throughout the session, if you want to ask any questions, pop them into the chat facility. Jim and Julia are there, and Paul, to be able to answer any of your questions. But again, we also have you all to be able to answer questions in this community, in the community of Aberdeenshire, to be able to support one another. We'll then move on to the workshop activities, and this is actually the most important part of this session, because this is the point where you're able to reflect on where you're at and what that sustainable change looks like, what's really important for you, what's critical for you in taking that forward. And we're going to use the criteria from the Digital Schools Award for Scotland to look at that. Now, some of you may have already achieved your Digital Schools Award for Scotland, and that is absolutely fine. But what we want to do is to ensure that we are constantly using that criteria to measure ourselves against, to say, well, where are we at? Do we have any gaps? And are we still maintaining that DSAS award for our setting and for our school? We'll then move on to the next workshop activity where we'll be saying, right, okay, so we know all this information, we know what's critical, so what am I now going to do? What's next for me? And we're really then going to focus on what will our leadership's goal look like? And then again, we'll go into another breakout room. So I believe, Julia, you're going to be, or Jim, you're going to be managing the breakout rooms for those parts of the session. And again, if I'm missing the chat facility, guys, please feel free just to button and interrupt me at any point. Okay, so these are the session objectives as I've already outlined. We will be focusing on the use of digital technologies to deliver the curriculum, and also what does that digital culture of your school setting look like? And this has come up time and time again with our head teachers and with our senior leaders. You know, a number of them have said, you know, we celebrate our maths and numeracy culture in our school. We celebrate our literacy and our reading culture in our school, but we have never ever thought about actually celebrating our digital culture in our school and what that looks like. So again, that's quite important for you to keep at the forefront of your mind as well. And again, also reiterating what Paul has said, this session is also based around the standards for headship, where we're particularly looking at you as senior leaders to lead that drive forward in your school settings to enable that digital change and the use of digital technologies for to enhance learning and teaching. But also as part of this, we will also be looking at that self-evaluation, and that's really important because we do have a great deal of resources at your fingertips for you to be able to evaluate yourselves against, particularly for digital learning and teaching. And we always start with the Digital Schools Award for Scotland framework. Okay, so again, here are just some questions to get us started this morning. Again, Paul has already spoken about some of these amazing, the amazing digital skills of our educators and our learners across Aberdeenshire that they developed during lockdown. So I just wondered if any of you wanted to pop into the chat facility, what's happened since that point? How have you possibly built on and maintained those digital skills of your learners and of your practitioners? And what does that look like? That final question is what we're going to reflect on at the very, very end, but particularly just focusing on these two questions. I'm just going to give you a couple of seconds. Tell us a little bit about your successes and how, if you've even thought about how you will continue to maintain and build upon those successes. Again, Jim, you might want to, or Julia, you might want to add to the chat facility as well, or, come on in and tell me a little bit about that. I think a number of head teachers have reflected on how important it was to use digital technologies to bridge that divide between home and school. Great, Colin, thank you. Yes, starting from the point of never using Teams before and now using it daily. Google Class continues, that's excellent to hear. Yep, Teams and Google. Seesaw, brilliant.
2017, yeah. Is that right? Anyway.
Your mic's on, Ali.
I was like, what's happened in 2017? Excellent. Yeah, that's a really good point. Lots of people are putting in, but the introduction of digital leaders in a number of your schools, that's great to hear. Brilliant. Upper classes maintain class teams. That's excellent. Remote learning delivered. Yep. And I suppose a number of you are speaking about that confidence that educators have had. In a local authority last week, we were speaking about how that confidence for a lot of our practitioners has unfortunately now gone. So how can we continue to build on that and, just remind practitioners of how amazing they were during this point? Great to see the use of Seesaw being used. Bring your own device, flip learning, various subject areas. That's great, Mr. Hind. Love to hear more about that. Gosh, this is amazing. This is by far definitely the best feedback I've had. Thank you all so much. Great to hear about the digital champions. Great to hear about all this amazing learning that has been taking place. Julia, Jim, I don't know if there was anything in particular from some of these comments that you want to highlight in particular.
No, they're just excited about them. I like the pupils teaching teachers bit, that good of sharing learning. That's good, that. And we did have that recently with the Minecraft competition that you were there, Louise, and the teachers admitted they didn't know very much about the process, but the youngsters had driven that digital part of it, but the teachers had made sure that the pedagogy was correct and that they were following the rules. Yep.
No, honestly, thank you so much for that. So again, that was a really nice point to be able to celebrate what's happening across Aberdeenshire as well, and these amazing new skills, particularly obviously around online learning, virtual learning, and how we've been able to maintain those skills and build on them, particularly focusing on that digital leaders programme. So that's really good. So thank you so much for sharing that. I want to move on next you know, just to speak about the why, you know, why is this so important? What does digital technologies look like in Scotland, in our environment across Scotland? And again, some of this will probably not be new to so many of you. We all know the speed at which the world is changing makes it practically almost impossible to be able to predict exactly what the skills are going to be for our learners in the future. In the next, probably even the 5 to 10 years, it can be quite difficult to predict. But what we are all 100% certain of is that digital technologies and digital skills will be at the forefront of that. And that is really, really important to keep that at the forefront of our minds, particularly when we are developing our school improvement plans. Because where does digital and where does the technologies curriculum sit within your school improvement plan? Where does it sit within your learning and teaching policy? And where does it sit within your strategy for digital across your school and across your community? The OECD report also reiterated that particularly digital and the problem solving ability within the world of digital to be one of the top skills that are required in industry today and the future. So again, that's really important to keep at the forefront of our mind. So looking at some of the points here on my slide, we know that it's the fastest growing sector in Scotland within the digital industries. 13,000 new jobs each year are being developed, and that will continue to increase year on year. Obviously, what's very, very important to us in Scotland is the 5.25 billion that it provides to the Scottish economy. Now, again, this next bullet point is incredibly important, particularly when we are speaking about that culture of celebrating our digital ethos within our schools, is to bring our families on board with us as well, and to speak about those sustainable destinations, and to speak about the average salaries that you could have in the digital sector. And that is really important. Now, that is just an average salary, and again, that is always on the rise. And that information is more important now than ever. We speak an awful lot about, you know, the challenges we're all facing coming into the winter within our communities, with our families. But what we cannot lose sight of is ensuring that those aspirations are alive and well for all our learners, that our learners need to be able to see what the digital sector has to offer for them, and particularly looking at the skills with digital and computing science as well. Really, really essential. And again, the last two bullet points are still quite distressing to me, that we have so few numbers of females that are moving into the digital sector. It's incredibly important, again, that we ensure that all learners have got accessible access to digital technology and are able to learn through digital technology. And again, I've got a wealth of resources, and I know that Jim and Julia have also know where these resources sit, to really be able to embed digital technologies, but particularly with females, particularly with girls, to look at those subject areas that are particularly of interest to girls, and how we can embed digital and computing science across those subject areas. So again, I don't know if anyone has any comments on that, but again, feel free to pop them into the chat facility, because it would be really interesting to hear from yourselves, particularly about how we ensure that all learners have access, equitable access to learning through digital. Okay, so this is again some more information from Skills Development Scotland. Looking at the top employment occupations, and particularly the current demand. What I'm going to focus on is this last point here, new roles that are continuing to emerge, particularly looking at data analytics, artificial intelligence. I don't know how many of you have ever had conversations with learners about artificial intelligence and how it is all around us in the world today, particularly relating that to computing science. But I've certainly had some brilliant conversations about artificial intelligence with my 4-year-old, well, actually now 5-year-olds of last week, twins, because they love Alexa, and they just think Alexa is absolutely everywhere. And they don't know who Alexa is, they don't know what Alexa is, But what's been really, really important is to have that conversation about computing science, about how it is all around us, how this is a robot, and how we develop and build those robots, and they do what we ask them to do. And so, for example, we made Alexa out of stickle bricks, and what we might think Alexa might look like if she was an actual physical robot. So just having those really, really important conversations from a very early level is essential, because digital technology doesn't happen by magic. Also, you know, machine learning, the Internet of Things, quantum computing. But also, you know, I really want to focus on that cyber resilience and the cyber security jobs that are there as well. How often do we have those conversations with our learners about internet safety and cyber resilience and what they are doing on computers and at home? I don't know if there's any questions in the chat facility, guys, but again, feel free just to interrupt at any point. Okay, so here's a question then for the chat facility. Can good digital learning and teaching be separated from just good learning and teaching? Let's see what you think. Again, if anybody wants to maybe, excuse me, speak out, feel free to pop your hand up.
Are we allowed to turn mic on?
Ewan, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I think I would just, you know, come in that question. I don't.
Ewan, I don't know if it's just me, but I
hear
can't
you, Ewan.
hear.
Can't hear you, Ewan. Your microphone's pretty poor.
Can you hear me now?
Perfect.
That's better.
All I was saying was I think that that question, they really can't be separated. I think good digital learning and teaching goes absolutely hand in hand with good overall learning and teaching. I think the two are paramount to support one another.
Excellent, Ewan. Thank you so much for coming in there. That was greatly appreciated. Yep, great digital learning and teaching, and it can underpin and be threaded through learning and teaching. Absolutely correct. You know, we use the analogy of it's just your pencil case. It's just another tool. We're definitely not saying that, you know, digital has to be used in every subject area at all times, but you use the tool that fits your needs at that time. And it's all about having that digital agility as well, which is really important. Yes,
Hello.
absolutely. Yes, that's exactly what I've said. Mr. Hine, sorry, did you want to come in?
Sorry, it was actually me. I was just saying that I think it's important though that the digital isn't just used for the sake of shoehorning a piece of digital learning in. I think you have to find something that is appropriate, making appropriate use of the technology, not just as a wee add-on, a wee bit of froth. Once it becomes part of what we're doing, our bread and butter, the kids don't even notice it's there.
Absolutely, Mr. Hind. That's absolutely the point where we're at the moment. And, you know, even just having conversations around, goodness, should we even have separate experiences and outcomes for digital literacy? Because should that not be woven in to all the other subject areas as well? Whether we're at that point yet, I'm not 100% sure of, but it is certainly conversations that I'm having with a number of people. So again, I don't know what you think about that, or if anyone has a thought about that. Should we have separate experiences and outcomes for digital literacy, or should they just be woven throughout our curriculum? Yeah, Ian, you're right. There is still an awful lot of upskilling required for many of our workforce. And yep, Jim, you think woven throughout both? Great, Jackie.
Hi, Louise.
Yeah.
This is Ali Hine now. It was Dean that spoke that last time before I get blamed for anything he says. I think the crucial thing is, I think in terms of technology, we need to look at it in terms of, and this brings in PSE and it brings in parental guidance and parental support and things like that. The fact that technology is woven through these people's lives. You know, that's the thing. They're using technology all the time. There's some of the screen time of some of these kids is ridiculous. So it's this idea, yes, it has to be woven, but it has to be woven in such a way that they understand the balance, and that putting their device down, face down on a desk is actually them acknowledging they're going to be doing another activity and ignore the 56, 57 Snapchat notifications they get in 30 minutes. So, and it's that balancing act, it's weaving it in, but it's still making it clear that there's definitive acceptable use and acceptable and appropriate use built alongside it. So there's clear rules about what should and shouldn't be done, but actually the use of it is woven through everything that we do.
Yeah, 100% agree, 100% agree, yep. Yeah, yeah, you're absolutely right. You know, and it's great that we've got these devices in our schools, but it's also ensuring that learners know when it's appropriate to use them and when it's not appropriate to use them. When I used to work in a local authority, when we were developing Bring Your Own Device, we had to do, before we even, you know, switched the Wi-Fi on, we had to do an awful lot of work with the learners and the practitioners about, you know, what does that look like? When should we use our devices? When shouldn't we use our devices? What rules should we have around this? We had some amazing conversation with the learners and the families to bring them on board with that journey. Thank you so much. That's been absolutely brilliant feedback. And again, thanks so much for you know, switching your microphones off and coming in to add to the conversation. So again, I'm just going to continue with that discussion a little bit further. So again, you know, we had a Scottish Government digital strategy that was launched recently where they particularly spoke about no one being left behind in Scotland. So again, focusing completely on that infrastructure and tackling that digital inequality. That is so important. Again, ensuring that we have devices for those learners that do not have devices at home or have access to you know, the internet. How can we support them in particular? Now, there were a number of devices that went out across Scottish local authorities during lockdown, and also there's a commitment from the Scottish Government for one-to-one devices for all learners. So I am hopeful that we will have more information about that one-to-one device rollout, hopefully soon. But at the moment, the Scottish Government have invested over 70 million on tackling that digital inequality and are committed to continuing to do so. The next point I also want to make is, you know, we are speaking an awful lot about all of these devices, but it's very important that we continue to focus on leading that sustainable change within our settings. The digital agenda goes far beyond just the adoption of digital technologies. It's about the application of digital thinking, being open to experimentation and understanding the processes that leads to improvement. Everything we've just been speaking about. Again, reiterating, where does it sit within your school improvement planning? And again, you know, good pedagogy will never, ever be replaced just by a digital tool. I also really want to focus on independent, self-regulated learning and how digital can really support this. And I'm going to speak a little bit about that on my next slide and link that to the moderation cycle. Again, I've spoken an awful lot about how to use digital tools for digital learning and teaching and assessment, and I'll also share with you some of the courses that we have on offer, particularly focusing on pedagogy, not so much about, you know, the skills of how to use the digital tools, but for learning and teaching and everything we've been speaking about, how we can weave digital learning and teaching throughout the curriculum. And finally, digital well-being and safeguarding. And again, it's just what some of you were saying from that last slide. How often do we find out what learners are using and doing online? The issues and the risks that all presents. We have been working an awful lot with you know, our social work departments recently, particularly focusing on how do we have those conversations with learners about what they're doing online. And actually, it's the conversations with the learners that are the most powerful part of that. It's not about activities, it's not about online learning, it's about having those open conversations about what children are seeing online, they're doing online. So if they see something that they're not sure about, who do they come to speak about that? And then how can we effectively support them? And again, I'm going to speak a little bit about the digital wellbeing criteria and the digital wellbeing award that we have to be able to support you with that conversation, and how the Digital Schools Award can support with those conversations. Again, I don't know if anybody has anything in the chat that they want to add at this point. So what I also thought was really important, as I said, was to emphasise that independent learning, looking at those 4 capacities and how we can effectively combine and use digital tools as an accelerator to improve outcomes, improve motivation and engagement across the breadth of our curriculum for excellence. Now, very prominent evidence emerged during lockdown, and it continues to be built on from the International Council of Education Advisors for Scotland in their 2020 report, and also the EEF in their Rapid Evidence Report. They both significantly highlighted how essential independent learning and digital skills are for all our learners. And again, that's maybe something that you want to, again, think about when we're looking at our leadership focus. How are we supporting learners to be independent, self-regulated learners? And how can those digital tools support that? I also said, look, you know, we have this learning and teaching cycle, and no doubt you'll be able to look within this learning and teaching cycle and be able to identify exactly where digital can support at every point of this moderation cycle. So I have got some examples for you. For example, within planning, we have a range of tools at our fingertips for planning. And again, some of you mentioned that at the beginning, how you've used Teams, how you've used Google to be able to support, for example, timetabling, collaborations, discussions, all those question and answering, looking at mind mapping, storyboarding, quizzing. All of these things can be done using digital tools effectively, again, for learning and teaching. Again, when I'm going throughout these slides, if you have identified any other tools that you use, for example, for planning, please do pop it into the chat facility, because I would love to find out a little bit more about how you're using some of these tools. We have got whiteboards and Jamboards, which we're going to be using later on, that provides opportunities for mind mapping, storyboarding ideas, identifying prior learning, so retrieval practice, use it to brain dump ideas about a concept or a subject, sharing it with groups, and discussing and identifying gaps in learning knowledge. So again, as I've reiterated, we have some amazing digital tools at our fingertips, free at our fingertips, or, you know, that are part of Glow and are woven throughout Glow. Next, I want to just have a look at monitoring and what kind of tools we have at our fingertips, again, to support the monitoring of learning. So we have, again, Google Classroom and Teams providing those opportunities for live interactions between teachers and peers to peer, providing that feedback and monitoring progress of learning. You know, obviously particularly pertinent in that hybrid virtual learning environment, allowing that collaborative teaching and learning spaces to be created. We have OneNote and Class Notebook. I adore Class Notebook. I also adore OneNote. We have recently, well, just yesterday, switched on Reflect. So I don't know if you know about the Reflect tool, but it's a health and well-being check-in tool to be able to support those conversations, and that is embedded within Teams. So again, happy to speak a little bit about that at the end of this. So we also have Office Lens. I don't know if anyone's ever used Office Lens recently, but I adore Office Lens. It allows students to capture written notes, plans, etc., and save them electronically. It also comes with a wide range of accessibility features for additional support needs and learners where English is a second language. So again, these powerful tools all at our fingertips. And again, just finishing on evaluating our learners' learning and what tools that we have. So many rich opportunities to use digital tools to help teachers and learners evaluate learning and celebrate success. We've got forms, for example, to be able to create multiple choice questions, looking at you know, the beginning of a block of work and at the end to capture that assessment, using, for example, Menti, free Menti, not the paid for Menti, you could still get it free, to engage in real-time voting, visually displaying our results for a whole class. Podcasts or blogs, love. I'd love to know, has anyone across Aberdeenshire got their own podcast to be able to share their learning? Please share that in the chat facility. I would like to know more about that. But I love blogs. I absolutely adore blogs. Very, very simple to create a blog and really to be able to powerfully share what's happening, you know, as a learner, as a class, as a whole school. So again, some amazing digital tools at our fingertips to support that moderation cycle, the learning and teaching cycle. Jim, Julia, I don't know if there's any questions that have been put up, if anyone's got any ideas that they've used. Yep, I love blogs too, Julia.
Yeah, there's just a few comments, lots and lots to read out though. It'll take forever to read them out. It's great.
That's
We're getting
okay. If
loads
there
of
was just
ideas
anything
coming
in
in.
particular.
Yeah.
Know more about Office Lens. Yep.
Ali's
Superb.
just pointed out the new homepage in Teams, which hadn't run I checked yesterday, wasn't in Glow yesterday, but I know it's rolling out, so should be there soon.
Absolutely, yeah. The online wellbeing tool, Suzanne, I will absolutely tell you about that in a minute. So I just want to move on to you know, the Did You Learn Scott, and I am going to whiz through this because I know I've been talking quite a lot. I do apologise. So Did You Learn Scott is our external facing blog website that is there to support you. We have a range of news items. We have a range of blog posts from learners that are based in local authorities. We also have regional improvement collaborative blogs as well. So again, just practitioners sharing that learning, what's happening across Scotland. We also have a great deal of opportunities for practitioners to get involved in, but also this is where we advertise our webinars. So again, really just, you know, supporting what's happening within your local authority with regards to professional learning. We're also offering this nationally as well. And it's actually a really, really good partnership that we have with all our local authorities. So for example, this afternoon, we are delivering a session called This is Primary Computing Science. I have over 100 people signed up for this, which kind of completely blows my mind, because when I used to deliver computing science sessions face to face, I was lucky if I maybe got 10 or 20 people coming to it. But now I've got over 100 people coming to each of these sessions. And this afternoon, that is a 4-part course, and I'll speak a little bit about computing science in a minute. What I really want you to focus on as well today is this is digital learning and teaching. This is a 3-part course. And again, if your teachers in your school are not have not booked onto this, it might be something that they would really like to do. So again, we're focusing on the pedagogy here, not on the particular tools. So again, you can book on that and find out a little bit more about that on Did You Learn Scott. And we also have the new Scottish Digital, excuse me, the new Scottish Digital Literacy Week, which will be happening. We had a launch for it on the 5th of September, but that will be happening the first week of October. So again, we've got lots of events. We've got lots of code-alongs, do-alongs that will be happening during that week. So definitely keep an eye on Did You Learn Scott for that. We've also just rolled out 39,000 microbits across Scotland. So we've also created a 3-part course called This is Microbit. That's what it says on the tin. Very, very simple, just getting teachers started with how to use the microbit and introduce it to the class, and then moving on to, for example, how to use the virtual microbit classroom, data logging, and then how to embed it across our curriculum. I'm also going to be delivering a live code along for the microbits, which also coincides with Scottish Learning Festival this year. So I would love to see, as per usual, I see loads of Aberdeenshire practitioners coming along to our sessions. So again, Jim, Julia, thank you so much for sharing those sessions with everybody. But that's what I'm going to be doing on the 22nd of September at 11 o'clock, and we'll be making an emotions badge using the microbit. So again, if there's anything that's missing that we are delivering, please just do give us a shout, and we can definitely see how we can support you. So again, speaking about the support, and I know Paul mentioned this, we have a number of supporting documents for you all. We have learning and teaching online, and we also have, which is very, very important for yourselves, for your practitioners particularly, is the features of highly effective digital learning and teaching and assessment practice in schools. Basically outlining what the high quality of digital learning experience should look like within our establishments. It highlights the importance of that highly skilled, workforce within our settings, and really just provides that support and advice, and again, another evaluative framework to really support us to identify where we're at now. So again, that's all available on DigiLearn Scott as well as our digital vision diagrams. Now, when I go out to head teachers meetings to deliver this, I usually get lots of head teachers saying, I have never seen these before. And now when I'm also going out to schools, I'm seeing some amazing visual displays of our vision diagrams. So again, it basically articulates what we mean by, for example, a digital head teacher. What we are currently doing with our vision diagrams is we're updating them to be interactive. I also believe that Renfrewshire Council have made ThingLinks out of them. So again, they are hyperlinked with some supporting resources and advice for each of these statements. So we have it for head teacher, teacher, and learner, ELC primary school, secondary school, digital local authority. So those vision diagrams can be found on DigiLearn Scott as well. So again, just going to quickly mention Glow. We've already spoken about a wealth of these tools to support learners to become independent learners, to evaluate, monitor and plan their learning. But yet we do still have Glow at our fingertips, and we still have these amazing resources to use. And we'll get a little play with the Jamboard when we're particularly focusing on our leadership goal. I did say I wanted to mention a little bit about computing science, and I particularly want to focus on everything we've been speaking about, the consuming of digital technology. What is amazing, particularly about computing science, is it's about being creative, understanding how technology in the world works around us, and actually building and creating and developing our own technology. And that is hugely important. With the commitment of 39,000 microbits going out to, we've got 20 microbits in every single primary and secondary school now across Scotland. We now have a physical computing device in the hands of our learners to be able to code and program. We still have B-bots and pro-bots that are sitting out there in our schools, and I can't urge you enough to please make sure that you get these devices out of the cupboards and are using them effectively to support digital learning and teaching, but more importantly, to support those conversations about computing science, particularly at those early level stages, to be able to identify technology when we're going into a supermarket, for example. When you walk through the doors and the doors automatically open for us, looking at the sensors, talking about those sensors, people have built them, created them, and built those algorithms to make those work. So the rich conversations that we can have with our learners around computing science is amazing, to talk about digital and how we can use digital correctly. So I have a wealth of resources for computing science. Sorry, did somebody want to come in there?
Yeah, Audrey has a question.
Sorry, it's just a very quick question, Louise. I popped it in the chat bar, but there's so much activity, I'm scared it gets lost in among it all. It was just to say, those microbit course that you're running right now, it happened a bit quickly after coming back from summer. You can imagine it's been a bit crazy with proposed strikes and things. It was just to see if you've got plans to repeat them, because my staff are very keen to come along. It was just a question if they were going to be repeated later on in the year.
Yes, Audrey. So the third one will be next week. We have also recorded workshop 1 and workshop 2. You'll be able to find them. And again, I would be asking your practitioners to join the computing science leadership team channel that I have. So within there, you'll be able to find the recorded workshops, but also you'll be able to find that on our YouTube DigiLearn Scott channel. We will also be rerunning them in term 2. So that we'll probably be looking at 3 sessions delivered throughout November. So I will get that advertised hopefully in the next couple of weeks.
Thank you very much.
Great. No problem, no problem. We've been pretty bowled over by how many people have been coming along to our sessions in term 1 so far. So seemingly I think term 1 and term 2 is when everybody comes along to our sessions. So we'll definitely be delivering a lot more. Okay, so this is what we're going to be reflecting on for our workshops, is our Digital Schools Award for Scotland, and particularly looking at the criteria of culture and the curriculum. So, you know, we know it's a national award scheme for ELC primary, secondary and our special education schools as well. And it recognises and encourages that whole school community approach to the use and application of digital technology for learning and teaching. It also recognises not only just the award for one school, but what would be wonderful to see is more of that cluster approach of achieving the award. So we've had a number of nurseries and primaries who have started that evaluation journey and have actually pulled their secondary school along with them, which is just marvellous, because again, you're then looking at that transition of knowledge and skills with digital from nursery throughout primary and then throughout secondary, and you've all worked together on the Digital Schools Award for Scotland framework, which is really, really, really important. What I also want to emphasise is the fact that this is an evaluation framework. I also hear a number of head teachers saying, I'm just not ready for the award, so I'm not signed up for it. That's absolutely not what it's about. It's about the evaluation within the criteria to support you as a school to identify your support needs and in achieving the award. And in fact, getting the award, it's really just about the celebration of all that you have achieved to become that digital school, and really, you know, that culture and how you have led digital to embed it effectively across your curriculum. I don't know if anybody wanted to come in there with a wee question. Nope, that's fine. Okay, we also have, and this is, I did mention before we move on to the workshop, the Digital Wellbeing Award. Now, we used to have the Cyber Resilience and Internet Safety Award. We have recently revised this at the end of last term to particularly focus on digital wellbeing and what we mean by digital wellbeing. We found that cyber resilience and internet safety was quite scary for a number of people, and they didn't really understand what that looked like, and they kind of thought, oh no, that's something for another time. But what we've actually done now is contextualise it within health and wellbeing and what that means for all learners' wellbeing when using digital technology. So basically, simply, how can we successfully demonstrate the knowledge, skills and understanding to keep our devices and ourselves safe when using technology? As I said, cyber resilience and internet safety is in fact the driving force of digital wellbeing, and really hopefully through this revised and refreshed award, we really hope it's going to provide all of our education settings with that framework to support, and this is very important, that whole school community-led approach. It's not just about one teacher, it's not just about one group of teachers, it's about bringing the whole school together to support that. On DigiLearn Scott, I've got some videos from a validator speaking about how they validate the process of achieving the Digital Schools Award for Scotland, and how it's definitely nothing like an HMI inspection at all. It's nothing like that whatsoever. It's really friendly, and it's all about, you know, just celebrating those achievements. Okay, so what we're now going to do is, without further ado, I've spoken an awful lot, and that's the criteria that goes along with the digital wellbeing framework. And again, if anyone has any questions, please feel free, you know, just pop it into the chat facility and I'll be able to speak a little bit more about that. But I think now it's really good time to have our 10-minute break. Julia, would you say 10-15 minutes?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine.
So what I would like you to do, if you haven't done already, is to ensure that the handouts that Julia has sent you is to have a look over the criteria of the Digital Schools Award for Scotland. So that's the 13 pieces of criteria on that document. And what I want you to have a look at is to reflect on the 3 that are most important to you. So looking at what's important, what's very important, and what's critical. When we come back in 15 minutes, we will then move into our breakout rooms and we will negotiate as a group to decide as a group what our 3 important, very important, and critical statements will be and why. So 15 minutes break, and then we will come back I will just stop. Do you want me to stop sharing my screen, or happy to keep that up just now?
Louise, someone's asked, could you go back 2 slides? Maybe taking a picture of it or something.
Yeah, no problem.
Somebody asked before as well if we could get a copy of the slides to share too. Is it okay if we can share those slides? Yeah.
Absolutely, Julia. I
Perfect.
sent the slides, so you are more than happy to share them with everybody.
Thank you. So if you're looking for the criteria that Louise is talking about, if you go back into your calendar, and you should see them attached in the calendar event. So there are 2 documents in there, and you're looking for the criteria. Okay, and we'll see you back at 2:15.
Excellent.
Perfect. Enjoy your biscuits.